A long time ago, I watched a documentary on like the history of money or something like that. And the part of the documentary that I found most interesting was financing of the Civil War. Apparently, both sides, the North and the South, the Union and the Confederacy, did not expect this war to last very long. Maybe a handful of weeks, a couple of months, and it would be over. Of course, it lasted years. And according to this documentary, by like year 2, the Union was running out of cash to finance the war and specifically to pay for the troops. So there was a problem. So either Lincoln personally or people in his administration went to the big banks in New York for assistance. And at the time, the banks in New York were largely controlled by even bigger banking interests in Europe. And they were sympathetic. They wanted Lincoln to win the war. They wanted the Union to be preserved, but everybody expected this war to not last very long. They had no idea when the war would end. They had no idea if the Union would even win the war. And because of those reasons, there was no way they were going to take on the risk of loaning large amounts of money to the Union without tacking on high percentage of interest. And so Salmon P. Chase, the Treasury Secretary at the time, concocts this idea, allegedly, of just creating their own money and financing the war with it and paying the troops with it and just doing that. Now, who's going to use just randomly created money? And so their idea was that it could be used for the payment of taxes. And that's how they would essentially get away with people actually using this money as currency, this newly created money. Was not backed by anything, was not backed by gold or silver. It was a complete fiat currency. U.S. legal tender administered and created and printed by the Treasury. And so that's what they did. And that's how they won the war. That's how they paid the troops, and it's history. I picked up one of those notes recently, nicknamed the Greenback. Let's take a better look. $5 U.S. legal tender note issued in 1863. It's got the Chittenden Spinner signatures, famous Spinner signature down here. Pretty cool piece of history. This would be Friedberg 63, if you were curious. Famous greenback. This is graded a fine 12 by PCGS banknote. Picked this up a couple of weeks ago at a remarkably good price. Does have edged hairs, as you can see. Not in terribly good condition, but pretty cool note to add to my collection.